Hello again. All right, in this module, we're going to talk about workplace violence. Now, this is not out of OSHA. Um, OSHA can cite you for anything out of the general duty clause, but generally speaking, this is not a pretty OSHA thing, but it is a safety issue. And there's a lot of it going on. It's not always physical violence, but it's all bad. And I'm going to speak from my experience here, but I was neither a victim and I certainly was never a perpetrator of workplace violence, but did have some brushes with various things that went on. In in California, we had a guy who was an installer. We became part of Western Nonwovens, and there was a lot of communications stuff going on. So we had a lot of phone lines and communication lines being installed at all the facilities. And this guy was pretty good. He's a nice guy. He came to the facilities, did a lot of work. I got to know him pretty well. I mean, I took him to lunch and we thought he was a pretty good guy. And just about everybody in the offices all knew him, for different plants. We had 3 plants in California and one in Utah and one in Oakland and Florida, and in St. Louis. He went to all of them, and everybody got to know him. Well, after we had already kind of parted ways with him, I mean, part ways, the job pretty much ended. We found he was arrested for molesting someone in their office. Here we go. This was a guy we would have just let in. Anybody will let in, and everybody knew him. He said he was a nice guy, but he wasn't such a nice guy. So you never know. So maybe we didn't vet him. I mean, he was a contractor we hired. So not that turned up anything, but then we got a little more serious about maybe having better security in our facilities, because they usually were small facilities and scattered about different places. So at the plant there in bonded fiber products in Commerce, California, it was an industrial area, and wasn't the traffic it was just people that belonged there, customers, stuff like that. And during the weekends, it was pretty nobody runs, and we didn't work a lot of weekends. But anyhow, the office didn't have a receptionist, just there was 2 customer service reps in the front office, and the customer would come in sometimes, but we figured we better do something. So it didn't take a lot. It didn't take much money. We bought some cameras at Best Buy, black and white. I mean, cameras and TV sets and monitors, black and white. We put one up in the front office, and one was a hallway down the hallway. Well, there was offices on both sides, and my office was down at the end. Put one down in the hallway there. So anybody in those offices, if somebody come to the front door and nobody answered, they could get up and like go all the way to the front and look at the screen, see who was there, let them in if we wanted to, or going up and check them out further. And that worked out really good. Just for a couple $100, really, we had a pretty good security system. And we kind of did that at most facilities. We had a little bit more security. But a tough one was a company we had was right on one of the a busy street in the worst areas of Los Angeles, and people would sometimes just walk in off the street, and that was a problem. And that was a little more difficult to do. We didn't have the doors open up the street. It was just open up the windows because it was hot in there, and that type of thing. But we never had any serious problems there. They had a guy, a guy and a dog that lived there for security purposes. So it was Bill and Beast. Yeah, the dog was named Bill and the guy was named Beast, and they were there for security purposes. And they lived right on the premises. And after we became part of Western Nonwovens, and they didn't stay there for long. I don't know what happened to them. But anyhow, Bill and Beast were a legend there. And so in California, we didn't have too much of a problem with they wanted to kick one time. The boss wanted to hire a security guy, and he hired all these people. And the security guy was a complete jerk, in my opinion. He used to wear hats at FBI, and the FBI, he was the FBI. He wanted to be an FBI agent, and he was just a jerk, and he didn't last a couple months. And but he didn't really do anything. That night watchman, and you know what they did? Sleep. That was the biggest problem with the night watchman. Is so. Anyhow, we did a few things that were pretty simple there, and then here when I got to Oklahoma, worked for OK Foods, there was a guy that had worked there before I worked there. I didn't know him, and he worked there for a while, months. I don't know how long. Well, he got fired, and he wasn't too happy about it, and he threatened to go up on the 4th floor, which was where the president of the company and all the vice president, bigwigs were, and kill them all. Type of thing. So they got a little bit concerned about it. So they did this. They had the main reception area, that nice big reception area with the front doors of that big building up on 6th Street. And they had a panic button. They had sets when there was two women up there that sat there. If they hit the panic button, it did a couple things. It took the elevator and sent it down to the basement and locked it there. So he just took the elevator. There were some doors on the side. It had locks on those doors, so you couldn't get into the stairways. So if you hit the panic button, it did that, and it sent a very faint alarm on each door. There was a very faint alarm, so people on each floor, so people could know something was going on. So the fallacy of that was on the right hand, looking going into the building on the right hand side was purchasing department, and that door opened up into the lobby, and sometimes when they hit the panic button, the purchasing part would open up the door. What's going on? Well, you could go through the purchasing door and go back and get up the stairs, go through bypassing those locked doors. So that wasn't a real good, but it was something. But I kind of told them, look, here's a good idea besides arming the people up front, which I wasn't entirely against if they were trained. But anyhow, I was a seven one time. I was sitting in a reception in a lobby of some place, receptionist there, and I was waiting for somebody. And this guy came in, and he was a disgruntled employee, former employee, I think. And he walks up to reception. He's giving her a hard time about something. I don't remember what. And he was getting a little, out of hand. So she hit a button, and an alarm went off, beep, real loud, beep, beep. Well, you know what he did? He just took off and split. And I think that's not a bad thing to have right there. Just a panic button that has one hellacious alarm. Everybody's going to know it. And you could just say to him, the police are on the way. He don't have to know that they are or aren't. He's going to think they are, probably. I mean, if you're going to get all the trouble and put a big loud alarm in there, that's going to scare off most people, I think. And it's not about to let everybody else in the building know there's something going on. So there's a alert type of thing in the Air Force and the secure area that I was in. You had different stages of alerts. The first alert was just a local alert. In other words, somebody didn't have a badge on. We called that a 7 high. That was called. And it was an alert for security purposes. And then if there was something else, and it went more. Well, let's look at the base. And then let's look at the area before then the whole country. So. Could do that there too. Okay, there's something going on. Let's see how bad it is or what it is. But everybody would know about it if that alarm went off. So I think that's not a bad idea for just general security. And also we had a bomb threat one time, and it was a guy that called into, strangely enough, called into the home, not plant, but to the receptionist desk, and said the plant up behind you, which it was, and had a bomb, and they actually caught pretty much sure it was the guy on a camera up on Midland at a store, but it was so grainy you couldn't tell who it was. So we called the police, fire department, and they showed up, and we hadn't had any planning about this and didn't really know what to do. The fire department says, look, guy says, I've been on like 23 of this, and there's never a bomb. He said, it's pretty simple. Bombers don't call, and callers don't bomb. And I think that's true. If you're going to, but anyhow, we said, well, why don't we'll take a break, half an hour, and we'll a rolling break through the plant. You guys can search the plant for it. And they said, if you want us to search your plant for something like that, we will. But remember, for the bomb squad, everything's a bomb. So why don't you do this? He said, why don't you search? You have your people search your facility. You know what belongs there, and you know what doesn't belong there. So if you search your facility and you see something that you don't think belongs there, let us know. We'll take a look at it. We said, that's a good idea. That's what we did. And that's what we policy. And we wrote a policy about it. And that's what we did. We'll search our area. And that makes a lot of sense because, the bomb squad goes into your place. They don't know. You think it's going to say bomb on it? Big arrow, point down, bomb here? No. It's going to be something that just looks out of place. So, and people should be alert for that all the time too. So there are some things you can do to workplace violence. You certainly can have a policy about it, and zero tolerance policy. And you'll see some of these videos. They're pretty interesting videos, and you're not going to have a bunch of OSHA regulations in this module either. So that's about it. I don't have a lot of things in my career going on with workplace violence. So don't have a lot of personal experience from it, which is good, I guess. But there are sometimes simple things you can do, and it should be looked at, should be addressed. Definitely, it's one of those things you got to be go along with HR has to be involved in it because it's a big HR issue too. And But you have to do something about it. It is a safety concern to people. There's no doubt about that. People sometimes get crazy. And unfortunately, we hear about it all too often on the news. So workplace violence, please look at these videos, take it seriously when you get to some kind of a work assignment. And uh, you can find a lot of stuff online about it. And one of these is a NIOSH video. And I thought that was kind of interesting too. So, all right, that's it. And remember, be safe.